So I've now got to do 10 slides in 10, and I'm hoping I'm going to be bang on time. And it's 3:29, and let's go. So 10 slides. So what we're going to do again each week, we want a bit of natter between us, which is what we've just been doing there, a bit of sharing stuff, a bit more nattering, and just basically trying to understand, what people want from this hour as well. I know for a lot of people it's just a break from other things you're doing, but actually you've got an opportunity to tell us what we should be showing you. So 10 in 10. Anybody can take the floor, and what it's going to be is 10 slides in 10 minutes. So we're going to be looking for people to help us do this going forward. So I've said I'll just do the first one just to get us going. So I've now got to do 10 slides in 10, and I'm hoping I'm going to be bang on time. And it's 3:29, and let's go. So 10 slides. What I've done, I've taken them from, I had a dip into Flashmob through the ages, and pulled out some of the things that we've done before, and just always nice to revisit some interesting stuff we've done and probably forgotten about. This was from a session that we did about highly effective habits of PMO managers. I can't remember the date, 2016 or something. And this was about habits that PMO managers, good habits that PMO managers can have, that will help them in their careers and help set them apart in what it is that they're doing. And one of them was pragmatism. So, by the way, any of these slides are actually available for any of our old mini masterclass things that we've done. So they are there if you want to dip into them. And also we'll be sharing this afterwards, so you can look again at some of the detail and things. So this one's all about pragmatism. There's quite a few other ones as well, but this was the interesting bit about this one was that actually we do understand theory, but it's then how do we take the textbook and make it into something that's workable for our PMOs and for our organizations. So that's where the pragmatism thing came from. We also have looked on, we did a session about PMO maturity, which always makes people go like, so what is PMO maturity? Are we talking about maturity of the PMO, or are we talking about maturity of our delivery organizations and the PMO supporting that? So we've got a full session on that one, but this particular slide was quite interesting in terms of breaking down different aspects of the anatomy of a world-class PMO, and looked at activities around making you better at what you're doing. So it was maturity in terms of getting better at what you're doing, rather than saying we're at a maturity level 2.2 point whatever. So pragmatically, it's about kind of activities you can be doing to improve the way that your PMO operates and the kind of things that it does. So again, these slides will be available after, so you can have a nice little look at those in a bit more detail. This one's from resource management. There's an inside PMO report about resource management. It's available again on the website to download. So this was one of the, I think it's the second one that we did about what's the PMO really doing around resource management. And one of the things that came out of it was that there's a lot of different aspects of resource management, and it's quite difficult to understand where you get into resource management because they're all slightly different. So are you doing it at a project level in terms of resourcing projects, or is it more about the portfolio, so more of a senior level, like, or higher level look at all the people resource wise, or is it more resource led, where it's more about capability of individuals rather than availability? So again, there's some really good stuff in there that came out of that, and that report's brilliant. So if you've got time on your hands and looking for a bit of inspiration, crack on, have a look. So this one that you're looking at now is the strategic execution framework that came out of something that we did about PMO leadership. And what was really nice about this for a lot of people was understanding the bigger picture about we listen to PMOs. It's, the strategy's set and then the PMOs delivering it through projects, portfolios and programs. But actually there is a wider or a bigger picture in terms of where all that sits in terms of an organization. So the strategic execution framework, which actually came out of Stanford University, it's going back to 2004, it's quite a long time ago, but you'll probably see different variations of this as well. So what's quite nice about it is that if you think about a strategic execution framework from an organizational point of view, actually, if you were to think about the PMO, so what you're looking at now is that maybe a creation of a new PMO. It's actually a really nice framework to make you to allow you to think about some of the things that if you were setting up a PMO for the first time or re-energizing it, why don't we come at it by looking at a strategic execution framework instead of perhaps some of the textbook answers that are already out there. So it's quite nice about things like goals and metrics and looking at a bit more detail in terms of strategy and the cultures and structures and stuff like that. So again, a lot of stuff out there on the web about it. Go and have a look. Next one, Agile PMO. Wow, Agile PMO, hasn't that been a thing over the last few years? So we did the Inside PMO report about Agile PMO. So I think this is now probably, a couple, 2-3 years old. So right of its time when we were doing it, it's 2018, there you go, that we wanted to understand. The main questions were, obviously, it's, what are you really doing around Agile stuff? And then it was about asking PMO managers, so, what changes? So if we're a PMO that is supporting traditional projects, what aspects of the traditional things that we currently do might possibly be changed or have the biggest changes when it comes to thinking about supporting Agile. And so this diagram that you can see was just pulling out from that PMO manager's lunch some of the top things that they think that PMO managers were saying that change a little bit, and there's a different aspect to look at it from an Agile lens. So again, the report there, there's good to dip into, and hopefully, if you've not seen it already, or if you've seen it before, go back and have another look. So we've done some things before in the past, like we've had a book club. So sometimes we come up with these fanciful ideas about how we can share knowledge between us. And I still love this idea because I still love reading lots of books. And I know a lot of you lot are on this call love the books as well. And we had a really good session about some of the books that people really enjoy reading of various different types, not just necessarily business books, but stuff where they've taken inspiration from in terms of things like leadership styles and productivity tips and things like that. But really like this particular book, it's all mine, but I picked up for that evening and we did a book club, because it's a really, if you're trying to get your head around trying to think differently about lessons learned and stuff, it's a really good book to give you some really interesting different angles. It's a very entertaining book as well as being really informative. So if you've not seen it before, I think from a PMO point of view, there's definitely some stuff that you can take out of it and some really good kind of like stories that you will be able to relate to others to demonstrate some points around lessons and about where projects go wrong and how we can get people working together better. So, it's just a throwback to the book club idea. Maybe that's something that we could be doing going forward on our afternoons on a Wednesday. Who knows? So next one came from a coaching session that we did, a coaching evening about what the PMO can be doing in relation to coaching individuals within the organisation. And we particularly liked the listening staircase because actually when we looked at it, we found that actually most people get halfway up this staircase and stop. I think there's probably a lot of you that you think that you can do active listening, but I tell you what, I bet you can't. Because I think actually it does take, it's an habit that you really do have to work on to learn. And I think actually a lot of the time we think we're doing active listening, but we're not doing that listening to understand, and we're certainly not doing empathetic listening. So again, these sessions are still available on the mini masterclass part of PMO Flashmob from that night, so you can go and have a listen to all the other stuff that comes around it. But I asked a question on LinkedIn earlier this week, so you're going to be marooned at home for God knows how long. What soft skills could we potentially be, exercising a bit or learning more about or practicing more of. And I think there's going to be a lot of this, I think we need to listen better for probably a lot of that in households at the moment. But yeah, that was Listening Staircase and all around coaching. The last report that we did was all about metrics and measures. Now, this truly, to me, was the worst one to write. Anything to do with numbers and percentages and all this kind of stuff, it's like, I find it really boring. However, this is a question we get a lot, asked a lot of. Do we know any metrics for PMO? And you absolutely need to read this report if you have not done that, about why you're asking the wrong question. So again, the report's available. This really nice picture, as you can see, it says PMO, is available, so you can see a little bit closer, because actually some of these things that are on this diagram are some of these metrics that you're wanting to see. But actually they're more about project and program and portfolio metrics, not metrics on you, the PMO. So if you read the report, you'll be able to find out more about why that is not a thing. How am I doing? I've got 1 minute. So one of the other things that we've done is a 2x2 matrix, which we love this one. I thought it was going to be a nightmare, but actually people really, really got into it. And I think, I still think it's a brilliant exercise you could do with your PMO teams. Now, if your PMO teams are trying to stay together now, and you want a little bit of, what could we do as a team together that's slightly, left of centre and a bit different, you might want to have a think about how you can come up with your 2x2 matrix. And if you're not sure about what 2x2 matrix are, again, have a look at a search on the Flashmob website and you'll see the write-up from that, including Scooby-Doo. So finally, this is the last one, and this was about lessons learned that we did. I don't know, whenever Ken did his book, he did a really great session for us about thinking differently about lessons learned. And I think what is particularly of interest now is, when we've got a little bit calmer about what's going on, we're hope, but you can use some time to maybe think differently about some of the services and things that you do around a PMO. And I think there's certainly going to be some interesting lessons that come out of this for everybody, not only just for us as an organisation and our projects, but I just think generally for life and society. So it's always good to have a different perspective on, what can we do to really actually learn lessons and make sure that we learn from them properly. And Ken's got a book out as well that you can go and have a look at. That's 10 in 10.
Woo! Well done. Cool. And breathe. And breathe. That was impressive. I was worried a little bit at the middle there, but yeah, that was